Hi everyone, I'm Joe. Today it's time for me to do my monthly wrap-up for November 2022. Somehow we are already at the very end of the year. This year has gone by very quickly. And I would like to just mention before I talk about the books, the reason why I have, in the last month, not done any videos apart from the last monthly wrap-up. And that is quite simply, I've been on BookTube for almost 9 years at this point, and I just simply wanted a break from having to even think or plan any videos whatsoever. So that's what I've done. However, I've missed it greatly, and so basically from this video and this week onwards, videos will be on a weekly basis once again, because it's nice having a break, but frankly I felt a bit of a loose end sometimes with no videos to plan, no videos to edit and film and that sort of thing. I don't always know what to do myself. I've got used to doing it, but I've been doing it 9 years, as I said, so it's a bit strange not doing it at this point. Anyway, now I'll talk about the books finally, and this month there are only 4 of them. However, it has been a very good 4 books indeed, and the first of those is the 10th and final book in the Flavia Duluth series by Alan Bradley, called The Golden Tresses of the Dead. This is a sort of murder mystery type series. The character in the first book is a young teenage girl called, unsurprisingly, Flavia Duluth. This is set in England many years ago, in the sort of 50s or so. I'm not entirely sure of the years, to be honest, but it's roughly then. And Flavia and her 2 sisters, along with her family, live in this big, somewhat ramshackle country house. You know, lack of money and things, and obviously being a big house needs a lot of maintenance, which they can't entirely afford. So, yeah, they make do though, and basically the idea is that Flavia is very keen on chemistry. Obviously this means though that there has to be a murder and a dead body for her to find, and then of course, you know, she's got a very unusual way of looking at the world and, you know, coping with dead bodies, which is surprisingly well. And basically she ends up, you know, doing tests on, you know, chemicals and things, discovering why people have died or why things have happened, and a series of just, you know, little murder mysteries in a similar way that you would expect from this type of idea. This is done extremely well. The writing is really good. The character development is well. You've got a different environment, and obviously the characters being different ages than what you might expect in normal murder mysteries, so at least one that I've personally read, but I think works extremely well. And this is currently the latest, and for the time being last, book in the Flavia Duluth series. I'm hoping it doesn't go on too much longer, to be honest, because I think it would do better if it sort of ends well rather than just keep going and going and going. That's a personal preference. And in this one, she has formed a detective agency with her father's valet, Duggar, his surname is, a war veteran, and between them they are now trying to sort of solve crimes a bit more officially but unofficially, because of course she's still young, so she can't officially take part in anything. So it's still tricky and still amusing, and, you know, still a lot of, you know, little bits of danger for the characters involved, and strange goings on where they find a body and such. And if this series sounds like your thing, start with the first book, and if you like it, then, you know, continue on, and eventually you get onto these later books, which are, personally, I think are just as solid and well written as the early ones. Pretty much every book is pretty good, although I do have a little preference for the earlier books. I mean, I'm not going to pretend. Now, the second and third books that I read in November were by the same author, and that is Network Effect and Fugitive Telemetry. Now, these are the first and second 4-length novels in the Murderbot series, or the 5th and the 6th in the overall series, if you count, which obviously you need to, the 4 novellas, which I read only in October in fact. So these will be familiar to people. I finally got hold of the hardbacks in them and I've read them, and they're brilliant. I mean, I was a little bit unsure what to think. To start with, I was thinking with this one in particular, I mean, this is basically a novella, really. This, though, is actually a full-length novel. Network Effect, the fifth and full novel. And I was a bit like, well, is Murderbot going to be the same? Considering that there is a full-length novel environment to develop characters and effects take place. And the answer is yes. Murderbot is still as brilliant as usual. Murderbot is a android, basically a sort of artificial human constructed sort of person, you know, sort of part biological, part machine. Its purpose is a security bot, or a sec bot as people call it, and literally it's designed to guard and be basically a bodyguard and security. It will throw itself into combat quite willingly. However, Murderbot, as it calls itself, they do have personalities, has managed to break its basically like a chip that it has that sort of inhibits its ability to essentially be controlled as in the same way as normal. But it doesn't like people knowing this, because of course if people realised that it had broken its programming and it was essentially free roaming, people would of course be scared of it because it's extremely dangerous as a security bot, I mean by design, and it probably end up getting captured and destroyed, which, you know, it doesn't want to get captured and destroyed. It also doesn't want to murder humans as well. I mean, that's what it's designed to do by humans, but it's not really interested in killing humans. I mean, it's good at it, but that doesn't mean it wants to do it. It wants to actually listen to music and watch all its new programs. Basically, it's you know, a big fan of media, so it just wants to sit quietly and do that. And it's also suffers from social anxiety. So you've got an android that suffers from social anxiety. Obviously, in the books they have Murderbot is thrown in situations where it has to be around people. Its social anxiety comes into play, and it gets to be interrupted and not get to watch the media that it wants to watch, much to its distress, because it really wants to watch its new programs. But both novels are brilliantly well written. It's got a certain amount of sort of snarkiness and humour, which I personally like. I know it doesn't work for everybody, but you know, so it definitely works for me and several other booktubers that I know and trust heavily. It's got a certain amount of action, but a certain amount of quite interesting personal development. And of course, Murderbot being what it is, means that you've got social anxiety and you've got true personality. It's not just a machine and a sort of a, you know, sort of type of Terminator, RoboCop type thing crashing around the place. It does have emotions, because remember, it is biological. I mean, its brain is heavily biological, so it is emotional. It's able to just put emotion aside when it needs to, though. It's not controlled by emotions unlike humans, so it's like it's an interesting mix of, you know, human and non-human. And overall, it's a brilliant concept, and Murderbot is just a brilliant character, and the overall concept is amazing. And finally, the fourth and last thing that I read in November was Unconquerable Son, written by Kate Elliot. This is the first in a trilogy, which when I read this, to be honest, I didn't actually realise that. I thought this was a one-off. I don't mind. However, if I'd realised it was a trilogy when I started reading it, I probably would have delayed it, because the second book is not going to be released until 2023, and the third is not apparently going to be released until 2025. So I probably would have waited with this until 2024, and then I could read the second one straight away, and then I'd have a fairly short wait for the third. But, you know, it's happened, so oh well. I'm glad I read it though, because this was brilliant. I'm really glad that I read this, and I'm very happy to be able to blame and thank my friend Rachel, known as Carolina Booktube, for encouraging me to read this. I mean, I like blaming Rachel for things, as is well known on my channel. She talked about this and really made it sound very interesting, and I do trust her judgment totally. So I'm glad I got to this, because the idea is this is a space opera. The main character is a character called Sun. She is the heir of the current ruler, and the kingdom that they sort of rule is obviously, this is science fiction after all. Actually, I should have mentioned it is science fiction in case you thought it's fantasy. It's obviously basically a fantasy kingdom in space. Kind of. It's a kingdom that has been going for many years. It's not entirely like, there's obviously warring kingdoms or empires, and theirs is no exception to this. They are having combat and problems with others, and that's the main event in this book, is that there is another empire. They basically want to take back space that their kingdom once owned, and then Sun's kingdom took over aggressively quite a few years before. That it's all about, we once owned this and now we're going to basically hurt you, and it's this sort of endless cycle of people wanting to hurt each other just because somebody did so in the past. Pointless war for the point of war. Okay. Sun is a brilliant main character. There are other major and frankly joint main characters as well. Obviously this is space opera, so it doesn't just follow her point of view, it follows many others. There's a very interesting male character as well, which you only see his point of view relatively small number of times, but he's a very interesting sort of soldier type character that's been abused in certain ways, and he's been lied to, and now he's trying to be more than people think he is. I'm not going to say what he is because I don't want to spoil the plot, but he's a very interesting character and works well with others, and all the characters are developed extremely well. The plot line, which I've only gone lightly on, is extremely good. I don't want to say too much about this because I knew very little when I went into it, and I really enjoyed not knowing about it. I knew that it had the big space opera vibes, and it had lots of characters and events and things, but other than that I didn't really know too much. And frankly, I think it worked really well because I didn't know what to expect. The various sort of different alternative types of characters in this are really effective, and I just enjoyed this thoroughly, and I'm very much looking forward to the second and third books, which are called Furious Heaven and Lady Chaos. Lady Chaos being the nickname that one of the characters has actually got. So I'll be very interested in getting to those two books. Sadly, later rather than sooner in this case, because I got rather a wait, but it will be worth it because this was really enjoyable. So with that said, that is actually it for the books that I have read this month. So if you have read any of these or you would like to, then please leave a comment, or you want to know more information, then say so and I'll try and help to the best of my ability. If you have any recommendations for books you think I might like based on these, then again leave a comment. I'm always interested and excited to get into new authors. All my social media links to things will be in the description box below. One of them might have to change, being Twitter in the near future maybe. And I also need will link Rachel's channel as well, because Rachel is great, as I've alluded to in many other videos. And with that said, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.